You have handled hundreds of tax appeals and tried six tax appeals to judgment. When should someone hire a lawyer to handle a property tax appeal, and why specifically should they hire you?
Well, first of all, I think the only time you should file a tax appeal is if you truly believe that your property has been overvalued. If your property has been valued fairly, then I would not recommend the tax appeal. Um, and I know sometimes you can have a tax appeal even if your property has been valued fairly, just because of the way the market works at times. But those cases are very difficult, and you usually have a lot of resistance. So, in my view, if you're a residential homeowner, I would almost never recommend taking a tax appeal. The amount of valuation, the reduction that you can get, is not going to justify the taxes that you're going to save given the expense. You're going to have to hire an appraiser, you're going to have to hire a lawyer, and you're going to spend somewhere between five and $10,000 just walking in the door before you even start talking about saving any money on your taxes, which you'll get over a 5 year period. So typically, to me, residential tax appeals are no good. Generally, not always. And sometimes you do have to fight for principle, and I do agree with that. But generally, they're no good. And I look at those and I usually turn them down. Most of the tax appeals I handle, over 95% of them are commercial tax appeals. And I would recommend that any property that has more than a $5 million valuation, that they at least come talk to somebody that does tax appeals. Because at those kind of numbers, it's more likely than not that somebody that knows what they're doing will be able to save you some money. And it might make sense to do it, and you pay the legal fees and the appraisal costs. Um, the one thing that I would say with regard to that is that once you get into the case, you have control over settling the case, so that if it doesn't make sense, you can get out. But if you're talking millions of dollars, there's always going to be room for negotiation with the town. They have the same type of things that motivate them than you do, which is saving the cost and doing it as inexpensive as possible. However, as I said, anything that's over $5 million, we're happy to talk. And I think that we are a good firm to come to. And the reason for that is that I have substantial experience representing taxpayers, and I've represented Fortune 500 companies, and I've had multi-million dollar reductions in value after trying cases. But I also represent towns. I've represented many, many towns. So I know both sides. And I really don't think it makes a difference which side you're on in these matters. Because at the end of the day, the question is, what is the property worth? What is the value? And there should be no side with regard to that. That should be something that you can figure out. Reasonable minds should come pretty close on that. And that's why I say that for us, coming to us, we know both sides. We have a good idea what either side is going to do in a case, and we can give you better advice. And we have a track record of success. There's no substitute for actually trying these cases and getting judgments and appeals. We've been successful on appeal also.